Welcome to my channel, detailing events throughout the decades. 2002. Russian theater siege. It was October 23, 2002. More than 800 people were inside the Dubrovka Theater in Moscow, Russia, when around 50 Chechen rebels stormed into the theater as people were enjoying the show. It was during the second act when an armed man walked out onto the stage and began firing a machine gun into the air, while other terrorists in the group had explosives strapped to their bodies. They identified themselves as members of the Chechen army. They demanded that Russian military forces begin an immediate and complete withdrawal from Chechnya. Chechnya had long struggled to assert its independence, and was predominantly a Muslim population. A two-year war ended in 1996, but Russian forces returned back to the region 3 years later, after Chechens were blamed for a series of bombings in Russia. The theater siege standoff lasted for 57 hours, during which time, the terrorists had killed 2 hostages. Russian special forces surrounded the theater and would enter the building on October 26. It was reported that they pumped powerful neurotic gas into the building, rendering nearly all the terrorists and hostages unconscious, before they entered the building. Rescuers were eventually allowed into the building and began carrying out bodies of the hostages. Bodies had to be laid in the foyer and on the pavement outside the main entrance. Rescuers had to determine those who were alive and those who had died. It is reported that most of the bodies did not have bullet wounds or any signs of bleeding, which meant they had died from the gas. It was found that a 13-year-old girl was crushed under the weight of the bodies and died on the way to hospital. There are several different reports of how many were killed in the siege. It is estimated that most of the Chechen rebels were killed along with between 130 to 204 hostages. There are conflicting reports of the death toll. Because Russian officials did not reveal what was in the gas they used, medical professionals did not know how to treat the hundreds of victims which had been taken to hospital. The medical professionals spent hours testing out antidotes before finding that naloxone could help counteract the effects of the gas. After the siege, family members were not given any information about which hospitals their loved ones had been taken to, or if they were among those who had died. What was in the gas was never disclosed, but it was believed to have been a fentanyl derivative such as carfentanil. Russian special forces were later forced to defend their decision to use the gas, claiming that only a surprise attack could have disarmed the terrorists, before they had time to detonate their explosives. The attack prompted Putin's government to tighten Russia's grip on Chechnya. The official investigation into the siege had been conducted for 3.5 years, but failed to provide positive information on the gas agent that killed so many people, and delayed the treatment of many patients who had been admitted to hospital. Years later, and relatives of those who were killed in the botched hostage rescue attempt still await answers. Relatives say many of the victims died because they were denied correct medical treatment, and accused the Russian government of covering up its role in the carnage. We hope that these families finally get the answers they deserve after all these years. Forever remembering those hostages who died on that fateful day. May you always be remembered. Thank you for watching and learning about these events through history. Please subscribe to my channel to view other events throughout the decades.